It's been a couple of weeks since I was able to make a video here. Between deadlines and working on a video on my main channel, I just didn't find the time. Plus, it is really hard to record anything where I am. So right now it is 4:16 p.m. on a Tuesday afternoon, on a dark, dank, drearily grey British summer. It is June 28th, and it's freezing cold. It's raining outside. There is a sky full of clouds. It is a typical British summer. So, not one person is in the streets. Everyone is at home, crying, complaining that it's raining. So, there was peace. Peace for me to record. Yay. When we have a heat wave, everyone complains for 2 days that they're dying of a heat wave. And then everyone will complain that there is no summer. That's another wonderful part of British summer for you. Nobody is actually happy with what they're given. Oops. So, I made recorded a couple of videos. And this is one. It's just a random ramble, I guess. And I don't want it to be very long. People don't tend to watch long videos. Engagement is always super low on long videos. People's attention spans aren't great. But it's really weird because those binge watching box sets is really popular now. But sitting through a YouTube video for more than 20 minutes is arduous. Make it make sense. So, topic of conversation. So, I decided to talk about the first movie that really, scared me, creeped me out, left an impression on me. And it isn't a film that you would expect. Now, I was a child who was easily scared. Let's just say. Ghost stories and monsters were not something I would watch. So I didn't. I avoided them. Otherwise, I would just be up for nights, just terrified. So, the first movie that really stuck with me, really, and even now, like all these years later, I watched it first when I was, I think I was about 9, 10 maybe, yeah, about that. And so like 20 years later, it was Sunset Boulevard with Gloria Swanson. And that movie, I don't know, there's something alarming about that movie. I watched the whole thing when I was a kid. They don't do it anymore. They haven't done it for a long time, but imagination. Watching like 2 hours of Greer Garson in some epic romp was somehow quite magical to me, and it did spark my love of storytelling and creating what I do as an adult. So it helped. So Sunset Boulevard was the first film that I ever watched that left me unsettled. And I still can't explain why. I've watched it again since, and it's just such an amazing film, and Gloria Swanson is so magnificent as this faded actress, Norma Desmond, someone who lives in the past and has these delusions of grandeur, and she's a very creepy character. And I think as a child that alarmed me. And as an adult, when I watched it, I could understand the character more, like somebody going through some kind of psychosis who longs for her youth, but a youth that came with gold and glitter and wondrous parties that now nobody even remembers her name. It's kinda sad, but it's wonderful. And there's this weird, it's an interesting film, especially as it was released in 1950, that you have this older woman who, I don't know how to explain it, because it doesn't seem much like a relationship. It seems more like she kind of wills it to happen, and kind of, in a way, forces it a little bit with this much younger man, Joe, who I remembered because William Holden was in Sabrina, which was released 4 years later in 1954, but I'd seen that film like so many times because as a kid I loved Audrey Hepburn. I adored Audrey Hepburn, and one Christmas I remember my mother bought me this like box set of Audrey Hepburn films, and Sabrina was one of them, and it still is one of my most favorite Audrey Hepburn films, Sabrina, with William Holden and Humphrey Bogart. They remade the movie in the 90s with Harrison Ford, and while it's okay, it's not great. It's not the original. Oops. And I remember watching Sunset Boulevard on this, like, the same kind of atmosphere, and as I'm sitting recording this now in a dark room, it was winter then, but this is summer obviously. It was a Saturday and it was raining, and I always love the smell of rain. It's such a lovely, fresh, I don't know, I can't explain it, I just love the smell of rain. I'm sure I'm not alone. And sitting for ages watching this movie, and then the credits roll she shot him, and like it's not gonna end well. Like she's probably gonna get, I don't know, capital punishment or something. And it's just such a sad end for this bright young thing that she was in the 20s. And it really stuck with me for days afterwards, and then ultimately this film just adds such a strong, it's just a really, it is a good film. But when I watched it again as an adult, and I'd fallen more in love with silent era and became more acquainted with Gloria Swanson, I realized that what made the film, aside from the fact that it has this hauntingly wonderful story that's just horrible and even begins by telling you what happens in the end. It's not going to be a happy ending, and you know it right from the start. And you know it right from the start, so I guess you never expect wedding bells and happy ever afters, but what makes it truly memorable and mesmerizing, and to me, was Gloria Swanson. Because Gloria Swanson, in the silent era in the 20s, was this glistening, wonderful star in Hollywood, and she was one of the A-list actresses of her time. And then talkies came along, and like so many ninny actors and actresses, they just didn't transition for whatever reason. Some did, but the majority did not. And I guess that was something that Gloria Swanson had to deal with. Then roles dried up, and then to come along in 1950, Cecil B. DeMille to play, I guess, a really traumatized version of herself in a way is quite interesting, because she is fascinating. So maybe that was just it, that she has this wonderful presence that I always wondered why she kind of faded, because her presence is unmistakable. It imprints, and if you've seen Sunset Boulevard, you know what I mean. She's mesmerizing, it's insane. And she plays this, I don't want to say crazy, but like Norma Desmond clearly isn't in her right mind, but she plays her so well, so I think she must have had a lot of fun playing her. But yeah, it's not the kind of film I could watch all the time. Like, I think the last time I watched it must have been about, I don't know, 6-7 years ago, I think. Yeah, and that was either the third or the second time I've ever seen it. It's a really interesting time when films were being made. It wasn't the birth of cinema, but it was still early days. And the characters, the people, the actors, the actresses, they were so larger than life. was wonderful, what made them even more big, was that you knew nothing about their private lives. I mean, I hate that I know all this shit about famous people. I don't want to know. I like the mystery. I like not knowing. I like to keep that as the mystique. And that's kind of like why I like actresses like Evergreen, because they are like that. While they will answer in interviews, they don't have any social media. They aren't prolific. They aren't airing their dirty laundry in public for me to know everything about them. I don't know who they're screwing. I don't know who they're dating. And I like that because I don't care. I know that a lot of people do when they're interested in that stuff, and that's fine. But for me, I like the mystery. I like not knowing. I like to keep the mystique, the unknown. I like it. Sunset Boulevard is one of the movies that I hope they never ever remake. Maybe they already have remade it. If they did, I've never heard about it, so it can't have been that good. And I hope they never, ever, ever, ever remake it. Hollywood for a few years have been doing that, going and remaking classics, and it just sucks. Like they don't know any more stories to tell. It's the same thing all the time. And then they go and remake these movies. I don't think they know what to write anymore. I don't think so. So, I haven't really watched a film that I really, really, really was captivated by for such a long time. When I was a kid, when I was falling in love with movies through Bringing Up Baby, Katharine Hepburn and Cary Grant and this leopard, and Greer Garson crying over Ronald Coleman because they were married and then he had an accident and he forgot and got amnesia. Louise Brooks, Fay Ray, whatever happened to Fay Ray? Marlena Dietrich. There's just not that kind of magic. It could just be me while I was falling in love with movies that it was a really good, great time of 90s. I remember finding Sandra Bullock, and I still love Sandra Bullock so much. The first movie I ever saw of Sandra Bullock was While You Were Sleeping, and that is such a brilliant film. I've seen it about 1,000,000 times, and that is not a joke. I think I've seen every single Sandra Bullock movie that she's ever made. I love Sandra Bullock. And the 90s was a big, huge, huge time for Sandra Bullock. Julia Roberts. She was huge in the 90s. You couldn't go anywhere without a movie with Julia Roberts in it. Doesn't seem to be a thing now. I don't know. I miss her. I miss her a lot. It's kind of interesting in a way because I don't view actresses of my generation with that same kind of opinion. I mean, Scarlett Johansson is kind of bland. is very hot in those movies. I'm just saying, burn it out there. Just saying. And then in one of them, they had Naomi Harris. Oh my stars. Okay, that was. I love Naomi Harris too. I can't remember her name, but she played the Egyptian, Jamaican doctor woman. I don't know. I can't remember. It's been a long time since I've seen a Pirates of the Caribbean movie. All that Johnny Depp stuff kind of put me off, and I just didn't watch it. You know, another actress, but she's not from my generation because she's older. But Helena Bonham Carter. Oh, she's amazing. So, this was my